Perfect. Well, hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Fueling Growth at Your Accounting Firm with Jason Robinson from RBK Advisory. We're going to wait about a minute longer for everyone to file in, but I can already see by the attendees already that there's a bunch of excitement for today's webinar. I, for one, am really pumped to get into kind of the meat and potatoes and learn a bit more about the RBK story. But clearly there's kind of huge appetite, in our space, in our amazing, cloud accounting space for content like this. Now, one thing I did want to point out before we got in, if you're seeing our faces too much, even though our faces are beautiful, you might want to see a little bit less of them. You can just drag the GoToWebinar screen up a bit and actually see the slides. So we do have slides that act more as placeholders as we steer the conversation on today's webinar. But just a reminder that if you see too much of our faces, just slide them a bit up so you can kind of have the placeholder on the slide to see basically what we're talking about on that particular slide. Amazing. So as we transition here into the webinar, we'll just introduce today's speakers, moving from right to left. First and foremost, I'm Matt Bunson, the country manager of Australia for Hubdoc, and I'm really pleased to be joined by a couple of very special guests. One is Steve Kafritzis, who's a senior account manager at Spotlight Reporting. Welcome, Steve.
G'day, Matt. How you going?
Very well, very well. Thanks for joining us. And secondly, and I guess last but not least, we're joined by Clear Cloud Accounting expert, Hubdoc Top 50 Partner, and Zero Accountant Partner of the Year, Jason Robinson from RBK. Thanks for joining us, Jason. How's it going today?
Yeah, very good, mate. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Jason, which office are you currently in right now?
Sitting in the beautiful big Waterman suite at the Chadstone Business Centre, or the Chadstone Waterman Centre. So sitting at a boardroom table that probably seats about 30 people with more couches and chairs around at the moment. So just hogging the room all to myself at the moment.
As you should, as you should. It sounds like there's some nice weather down in Melbourne today as well.
Yeah, it could change in a couple of hours. It might be raining again soon, so who knows? We've got to enjoy it while the sun's out though.
As it does. Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here with us today. So before we dive into the discussion today, we do have a few housekeeping items to cover. First and foremost, no worries at all. You'll receive the webinar recording, so you need to go back to a particular section and hear a little bit more about the topic discussed. You'll get the recording. Feel free to send that along to anyone else who may find it useful. Secondly, is just ask questions. I'm kind of expecting there to be a load of questions today, which is amazing, just due to the topic and how interesting the RBK story is. But make sure you do ask those in the GoToWebinar panel in the questions section. We have some moderators who are on the webinar today who will be basically making sure that all the best, greatest, and most important questions get answered, and we will have a question and answer period at the very end. So your question might not be answered as soon as it's asked, but I can assure you we will have time for that closer to the end. And finally, and this might go without saying, but just try to turn your phone over, turn off notifications, close unnecessary windows, whether it's Slack or something else that might be distracting as we're on the call today. We're trying not to take up too much of your time, probably 45 minutes to an hour this afternoon, but if you can close those windows, it'll definitely help enhance your webinar experience. Perfect, so let's dive in. In our conversation with Jason, we're gonna cover a couple of key topics. I think one, and where I'll start with, is reaching your practice's growth goals, whatever those growth goals may be. Second would be choosing the right cloud accounting tech stack. Right, so we'll be diving a bit more into what RBK uses and how they kind of went about choosing that particular stack. Finally, it's embracing advisory and taking your firm to the next level. And so what we'll be going through today is sort of an interview style webinar where myself will be taking the first part of the webinar and Steve will be handling the second part, but hopefully everyone will get a ton out of the content. Perfect. So I guess without further ado, and kind of the moment we've all been waiting for, let's begin, really the conversation with Jason. So Jason, we wanted to start from the beginning today. Tell us a bit about the origin story of RBK Advisory. How did you get started?
Look, to be honest, it's a bit of a usual kind of origin story. It was basically a couple of mates having a beer and decided that we thought it'd be an awesome idea to start our own accounting firm. My best friend and I from 14, we worked at Macca's together. Then we went to uni together. Then we had our first job at an accounting firm together, and we'd always kind of been side by side. He's the B in RBK, and we were fortunate enough to the first accounting firm we worked at was your more suburban style public practice. Great couple of guys who ran that, and they had a huge client base out in the southeast suburbs where we were able to sit there and learn from those guys. And I guess, they were our mentors early on in our careers. A little bit after that, moved to another firm where I got to work with Brent Sally at Seva, who ran a very different firm to the first firm I worked at. Again, got to learn and absorb all the things that they were doing that made Seva such a great, innovative, kind of tech-focused boutique advisory firm in the CBD of Melbourne. And then from that point on, my mates and my mate and I, Greg, and we're just saying, mate, I reckon there's something we can do here that's a bit different. We kind of had that idea of bringing the relationship back into an accounting firm, making sure that our clients felt comfortable. They didn't feel like, they were paying too much or, and they really were able to, just get in touch with us. We wanted to be cloud, paperless tech, really, really accessible. And that's kind of where the conversation started, and of course it happened to be over a few beers at a pub, like any good story starts with.
So I guess including the experience at Maca, is it safe to say you and the co-founders had very similar kind of background and experience?
Yeah. I mean, Macca's aside, another partner, John Kane, came on. He's Bayside guy, and he has his own background and history, but working similar things. Worked at local public practices, and then worked in more boutique CBD style advisory firms. So really kind of cut our teeth and got the experience there. But yeah, background and experience. I think one of the other things that was great is we haven't just focused on accounting studies. We've also obviously done our CPAs or CA, then also looked at other business studies to do outside of just the straight accounting. So myself personally did a course called Business Blueprint in Sydney with a guy, Dale Beaumont. Where you'd sit in a room with up to 100, 200 business owners and learn all about marketing, systems and processes, sales techniques, personality profiles. So it's all these extra tools outside of being a good accountant or being good at accounting that allows you to, I guess, be better at running a business.
Awesome. So I think we're going to touch on a bit of that later, but that's definitely really interesting. Now, from the early days, like where is RBK now?
It's 2 years and 3 months ago since I resigned from my job. So it feels probably more like 10 years has gone by in that 2 years and 3 months. We started off the two of us, 3 partners, now there are 4 as we've expanded and brought on more people. We've brought on 4 new people in the last week who will start in the next week or 2 or 3. So the numbers are a bit up and down. So we're probably at about 22 in our core accounting and bookkeeping now. We have a planner, broker, and a property advisor that come and go work in our business on our clients. So with them in the office at any point in time, we can have up to 25 different people across all our offices in South or Melbourne and southeast of Melbourne, and now down in Geelong. I think in the early days we started off with a couple of hundred clients, and now we're probably approaching 2,800 different client entities, including companies, trusts, SMSF, all of that, probably made up by about 400 different groups of entities, which seems like a lot, but when you break it down into the amount of client managers and directors we have, we are able to I guess, love and nurture our own little client books as we continue to grow, which I think a lot of people see as the challenge of having such a big client base in such a short amount of time, is how we've managed to keep loving clients. I mean, that's kind of where we're at now. So we trade predominantly out of 3 offices, having extra time spent in the Melbourne CBD as well. So a total of 5 different offices people can come and go from, where we work in almost not like hot desking, but we have our own private suites at all our offices, but we can then rotate around, which just keeps things fresh and interesting for our team. And I guess it's the perks of working on the cloud and working completely, the ability to be remote and paperless.
Absolutely. When I think that whole question of scale and maintaining kind of customer love, appreciation, and same quality of service is kind of a problem that any company faces, right? And definitely, certainly not mutually exclusive to any company or industry. Now, with regards to like the early days of RBK rather, did you start with this clear vision of this enormous scale in the first 2 years in mind? Like, was that something you wanted to accomplish, or did kind of your overall vision of how big you'd get and the services you provide, that kind of come organically as time went along?
Combination. I think that origin meeting story where I said we're at the pub having a few beers, the more beers we had, the more ambitious the vision got as the night went on. But the vision was something that was very clear, so to speak, from day one. Yes, it constantly evolves, but it was something that we worked on really heavily as a team. We knew what we wanted to achieve. We knew how many people we wanted to employ. We knew we wanted multiple offices. We knew the software we wanted to use. We really nailed it down. We drew it. We typed it onto a computer. We put it in different spreadsheets in Excel. We were probably a little bit crazy, but the vision thing is that, beginning with the end in mind, and anyone who's read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill will understand that burning desire to want to achieve something really involves having a great vision. I think where we are today, 2 and a bit years in, is probably where we wrote down we'd like to be in 5 years, which is amazing to be able to measure that and track back to that original vision and go, well, holy crap, we wrote down 2.5 years ago, our 5-year goal was similar to what we've achieved today in revenue, employees, offices that we can operate out of. So, but I mean, if you haven't sat down and worked out your vision and wrote that all down from day one, you've got nothing to track back and measure against. And I guess it's hard to keep yourself accountable on how you're tracking towards achieving your goals if you don't write everything down in the first place.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess when it comes to developing that vision, you clearly had, some pretty clear goals when you come out of these first iterations and meetings. But, how did this vision develop? Is it constant kind of communication, iteration by you and the founders? Like, what does that look like?
To be honest, it's modeling the masters. There's so many accounting firms out there, and great accounting firms and advisory firms. I didn't need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. I wanted to take really good pieces of several firms that I loved, their look, their feel, the way they communicated to the clients, the way their message that they got across, and I wanted to use that as inspiration. So, I mean, the start of the vision started with looking at other firms that were doing it really well, and then working out what our point of difference was going to be, was how are we going to go to market doing something similar, but in our own RBK way. So that was, I guess, the start of developing the vision. And then obviously we put our own spin on it because we're our own humans with our own personalities. But yeah, there's so many accounting firms out there that exist. You don't need to copy it exactly, but you have a look at who's doing it well, and just take little nuggets of gold. And I think something else around that was actually having mentors or having people in the industry you could go and sit down with and just go, hey, how'd you do it? What happened? Watching webinars like this and getting a few, nuggets of gold of what went right, what went wrong. But we couldn't have come up with our vision without knowing what we're competing against out in the industry.
Right. Well, I guess that makes sense. You don't need to completely reinvent the wheel. You just have to kind of put your own spin on it. Now, I guess when it comes to that, like, is there any key thing you can point to which can show how your, I guess, vision manifests itself in your day-to-day operations?
Oh yeah, so that vision is shared so often with our team. So we do an annual retreat where we take our team away. The retreat we just did recently, end of June, we flew 21 people to Port Douglas for 6 days, and we locked them in a room for 2 days, and we literally just worked on the business. So our mission, our vision, our values, and we basically drill that into the entire team so they know why we exist. They know why they come to work each day. Our values are on the desktop because I don't have the ability to draw all over the walls here, but I want the team every day when they log into their computer to be reminded of our vision and our values. So our desktops of our computers at work have the values written on the desktop in nicely worded ways. Things like leading the pack, which reminds us that anything we can use technology or innovation wise, we want to be leaders of the pack. We don't want to do necessarily just copy what the guy down the street's doing. How do we do it better than them? The crew is around relationships with our team and with our clients. I think we make it known to the entire team that everyone is treated with the same quality of service, whether they pay $200 for an individual tax return or whether they pay $100,000 for the entire package of bookkeeping, monthly reports, so on and so forth. Those two people, when they call, the phone gets answered the same way. They are treated with exactly the same amount of respect and love by anyone at RBK. The other part of that is the boom. Like we talk about how we grow so fast, how we hire and introduce new team members. The team need to be comfortable with that. If you hire someone and don't communicate all these values and all the things that we do to them, they can come in on day one and just absolutely be blown away by the amount of apps and software and people and phone calls and emails. It's so you got to be very open about what we're doing. So day to day, it's just that constant communication with the team to say, this is why we're here, this is what we're moving towards, and this is how we do it. And them knowing that the future goal is to have 50 people trading nationally, as an example. If they know that when we do that in another year or two, they're not going, shit, this wasn't for me. I didn't really know this was going to happen. I don't want to be here anymore. They're in here today, our whole team, because they know what we're working towards. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like communication, both internally as well as externally, become kind of focal points to the way you guys run your business. So I guess with that,
sure.
kind of transitioning into growing your practice, and this is kind of a big part of that. You've already touched on some of this, but tell us a little bit more about how you've kind of been able to manage this unprecedented growth in the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, just hearing those numbers to me sounds almost unmanageable. You mentioned that it actually has been easier, or maybe not easier is the way to put it, but clients are broken down into the very specific groups, and while it does seem like kind of quite large growth, you've been able to manage it quite well.
Yeah, so I guess day one of the things that we said was we looked at a few firms, and there was some of the firms we looked at just focused on smaller individual type clients, mum and dad's investment properties, and then some firms just focused on business and small to medium or bigger packaged kind of services. And we went, how do we kind of have the ability to do both without dropping the ball or not doing it both really well? So part of that was the smaller individual stuff was as much automation as possible, APIs, pre-filled data, having a team of people who kind of do all the heavy lifting before it gets to a point where an accountant has to make a phone call or sit in a room for a meeting. The other side of doing the individual side of the business was to have financial planners and mortgage brokers and property advisors that were only a phone call away, all working in our office, so that those individual clients actually feel like there's so much more than just coming to get their tax return done. That's not why I want to exist, to just do a tax return. I want to exist to change that person's life, and for them to have a great financial plan, good insurances in their super or out of their super, a great mortgage where they're not paying ridiculous amount of interest on their home, and then the ability to go, you know what, I'm ready to buy my next investment property, but I'm too busy to go and get it myself. Sweet. And they can do all that from calling our one phone number. That for me was part of that initial, we can do that and make that easy for those people. The other side of that was the sheer volume of having those individuals who love and live and breathe RBK means when they talk to their business owner friend who runs a carpentry business or has an e-commerce online store, website, whatever, they're going, well, you should talk to my accountant. He's a great guy. He looks after us. So the growth came from being able to look after multiple different size people, whether individuals or small business. And that kind of just snowballed. It was kind of scary how fast it snowballed. But the reason we could do it is when clients sign up, they basically input their own details to a sign-up form. It feeds into Xero Practice Manager. They're converted from a prospect to a client, and that's all automated to the point where nobody's having to kind of do the heavy lifting. There's no paperwork involved in grabbing data, and we had to make it streamlined and simple like that. Then the business side, the numbers that we've had have gone from sole traders to getting companies and trusts and self-managed super funds, and it's just, and again, it's only two and a bit months into the journey, and all of that that's already happened has been manageable. But because it's been a deliberate thing, we've had to make sure that we manage to ensure the flow of work in and out.
What's impressive in one word. Now, I guess with regards to that growth, like what have been some benefits you've experienced as a result of that growth?
Well, the growth around the benefits of the growth is that we get to grow our team quicker. We get to have more people involved. We get to have more happy clients. I think as well, it's afforded us to be able to have, the more people we have, the more different, I guess, the brains and ideas that we have that make changes within our business to make it better. I mean, one of the ladies who started this week was like, "Hey, I see you guys do that this way. Have you thought about doing it this way because it's quicker and easier?" And I was just like, man, I can't believe I didn't realize that in the past. Let's change that process. So the benefits as a result of that growth has been, recognition from our peers and recognition from, Hubdoc and Xero. That aids in our growth as well. Kind of everything goes hand in hand. The more we get our name out there, the more we're recognized in our industry, the more our clients recognize us and are happy and comfortable referring us and talking about us. So I think the other thing we refer back to is we want everything to be a 5-star service. So that growth that we've had and having that sheer volume of people to turn around and say, hey, if you've been happy with our service, leave us a review. We want everyone to feel that dealing with us is a 5-star service, and through that growth, people talk about it and keep referring. So we can't see the growth slowing down or stopping because it's ingrained in our culture, our values, is that growth is what we thrive on.
Interesting. Now, I guess maybe more of a pertinent question. What are the challenges, right? As I think any company knows, as they're scaling and growing, there's going to be unanticipated challenges. Can you speak to any of those?
Yeah, big time. So I definitely want to put forward that it has not been easy. The growth, while we're having fun and it seems like it's been a really cool, good, fun thing to do, and winning Xero Partner of the Year and everything else, that's been awesome. But it's damn hard work, and we've made mistakes along the way that we've had to overcome. Like any good business that wants to grow and be good, you've got to overcome the challenges. So the growing pains is something that is there. As much as you try and overcome it, there's always going to be times where you can drop the ball and you can not get back to someone because you are too busy, and that again can be outweighed with having great team members to back you up, great communication skills where you pick up the phone, you're not afraid to tell your client, hey, I stuffed up. What we really kind of balls up at the start was we didn't have a big bank account full of money. We started with $0. So our strategy at the start was, let's bring on as many clients as possible. And we just went on an acquisition spree for clients, and we took new clients and we took new clients and we took new clients, but we did no work. So we got, I think it was 7 or 8 months in with a team of 3, but we probably had enough work for 8 people. So that was very challenging to then, after all these clients we promised the world, we then had to pick up the phone and say, hey, look, we're actually lodging your Feb BAS late, your December BAS late, because we're too busy and we haven't had a chance to do any BASs yet. And we were embarrassed. It was a nightmare. And we went on a hiring spree and hired a bunch of people. And then we hired too many people. So we kind of had 2 sides to the growing pain. Is we didn't have enough people to get the work done. We went on a crazy hiring rampage and hired everyone that we could to fill that gap. And then we had a big gap towards the end of that financial year going, oh man, we've hired so many people. Do we really have enough work to fill everyone's workload? And we had to back ourselves in to load those people up. I think that's two of the biggest challenges, was having not enough people, then having too many people, and how to overcome that. And the other one was workflow management. We weren't experts in managing the flow of jobs in and out. When you take on a lot of work in a fixed price agreement sense, you agree to do all this work for a chunk of money, and that chunk of money drops in every month. But if you leave it to too late in the year and you've got a whole bunch of fixed price jobs to do, you've already collected the money, there's a bad timing in your WIP versus the money that's dropping into your bank. We were trying to use Trello to manage our workflow. When you have 100 jobs on the go, split between 5 people, that's doable. When you have 1,000 jobs on the go, split between 20 people, Trello can be a nightmare. So we had to change our systems to be able to manage that.
Right. Now, I guess it's kind of jumping ahead a bit here, but that seems like an enormous risk, right? You're taking on work before you even had internal capacity. Is this, something you would do again, that you'd advise people, or is that sort of a bit of a crazy thing that you did at the start? It was kind of a big risk that worked out for you guys?
It was a big risk that worked out. I think if you calculate it properly and work on it, we could have been more strategic about it and actually kind of had a bit more of an oversubscribed method, and actually tell the client, hey, yeah, we're going to bring you on, but it's going to be next month or the month after, rather than kind of telling everyone on the spot, yeah, done, bring it on, we can do it. So I don't think we'd change it. I think it was a great lesson to learn in managing your capacity and managing that workload. I mean, even right now we're upping our capacity because we're getting so many leads for these great new clients. We want to make sure that we can confidently say, yep, we can bring you on and we can get the work done. But the other way to do that is to have a bit more capacity in the tank, and we got to back ourselves in, and we do back ourselves in to win that work. It's just a timing thing, and we'd rather have too many team members to be able to load the capacity than have an overworked workforce with no capacity to feel like they're not able to
Got it. Now, would you say that was kind of the largest risk that you took in the early days?
Yeah, definitely, because it could have gone completely the wrong way. We could have brought on all these clients and lost them all, or we could have hired a whole bunch of people and had no work to feed them, and we're literally just burning cash. Managing that towards the end of that financial year, where we had all those fixed price agreements to do and a whole bunch of wages to pay, it was a really bad mistiming of money, where we were paying out a whole bunch of money to our team members, but not a great deal of money was dropping in, and that misbalance is now something that we work very hard to forecast out 12 months in advance. We've run our numbers for the year. We know what drops in and when, and we know how many people we're paying. So that was something we didn't do at the start, which was a big lesson learned, is to I guess from accountants, we're going to have this grand vision, but we weren't sitting down and doing a proper forecast and budget for ourselves. We're doing it for our clients, but not for ourselves. So
interesting. Now, it's beyond aligning, and I know that's kind of a major one, but aligning kind of revenue with expenses. But basically, for firms that are wanting to grow at a similar pace, are there kind of key pieces of advice or key pillars that you would give them
for growing?
Yeah, for kind of firms that are wanting to use this RBK model, like what are kind of some key pillars that you would say these are musts?
Just systems and processes, knowing all the trigger points and who does what. So when a new client signs on, where the information goes to, and who are the responsible people for making that onboarding a smooth experience. Our directors and our client managers pretty much won't have to touch a single thing until everything's added to the system, all the data and documents are there, the Xero files up and running, ready to go. We know what jobs we're doing. It's everything's set up and ready to go before I then pick something up and go, okay, cool, what are we doing? I mean, it can start with, I'll have the initial conversation about what we're going to do and how, and then load that in, and somebody else takes it through an entire process. So the growth has to come from, being able to scale, and then having good systems, processes, APIs, tech. Yeah, that's the most crucial part. If I was trying to do it all myself, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess repeatable processes clearly allow scalability, right? So that's amazing. So now I'm going to pass it over to Steve, who's going to take over sort of the mic on presenting here, and we'll swing into some other topics in the interview.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Can you hear me? Yep, all good. Hey, Jason. RBK Advisory doesn't
Steve,
just
hey, mate.
do. Hey, buddy. RBK Advisory doesn't just do traditional suite of advisory services. You guys also offer digital marketing, SEO, and other types of business services. What made you decide to go down this path?
Yeah, so that was a pretty natural, easy thing to transition into. Was our clients were coming to us and asking the question, how are you growing so fast? So we wanted to lead by example, and if we were using our website, our SEO, our marketing of Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, all these things to grow our business, but our clients weren't necessarily feeling very comfortable with all of this. So they'd come to us as their trusted advisor and just go, Jace, guys, how are you doing it? What are you doing? Who do you use? Because I think out there, one of the things, especially SEO, I mean, if you've ever looked for SEO, you've had phone calls from SEO companies, you probably get emails from SEO companies all the time asking to take over your SEO, but you don't really know what you're getting or what the results are going to be. So us having that as part of our panel, so we have a couple of different people. I, for example, share my office with a web design team, an SEO team, a social media team, and a graphic designer. So having those people literally sit in the same office as me, when a client calls up and says, oh, I've seen your videos on Facebook, we need to shoot videos to win some more business. Who should I use? I could literally transfer the call to somebody sitting next to me and talk them through the process of who the client is, what's important to them, who their target market is, and what they're going after from an advisory level. So it's just a really good flow on from what we do to be able to offer that advisory service and then make the right introductions and get the right people involved. So, I mean, and if you're leading by example, I mean, if you Google tax return Richmond, accountant Narre Warren, Xero accountant Melbourne, like all these different search terms, you'll find RBK Advisory amongst the top results for all these different things, which then leads to traffic to our website, which leads to new clients signing up. Everything works hand in hand. The SEO speaks to the marketing, it speaks to the website, people on Facebook or Instagram. And I think I was one of the skeptics really early on. I didn't think that I needed to spend too much time being overly social if our website ranked quite high. But then the other day, a lady booked a meeting at Richmond and sat down and said, I'm actually choosing you to be my accountant because I watched your videos on Instagram. And I was completely blown away. I was like, hang on, why? She goes, oh, well, I don't like to waste my time. I already felt comfortable with you because I'd seen the way you spoke in videos and the content you presented on. I felt instantly that I could trust you and I felt comfortable and that we'd get along. So I booked an appointment. And I just sat there and went, okay, cool, proof's in the pudding. So being able to tell our clients to do these things, I mean, it's just easy and it makes sense. And I'm not kind of selling things to them that I haven't already done myself. I think where it gets hard for other advisory firms to really, stand there and give this advice saying, well, you need to advertise and you need to market. But it's how many accounting firms are out there right now that are really nailing their advertising and marketing strategy. So that's kind of a big thing I'd kind of look at for anyone out there who isn't doing any advertising or marketing. What is your advertising or marketing budget and what are you doing with it?
Yep. Yeah, 100% agree. And for many accounting firms, those type of advisory services will really get them out of their comfort zone. How do you go about building a business case for any accounting firm that wants to include these services?
Like anything, stick to what you're good at. So we're really good accountants and advisors. So I don't do any SEO myself. I don't sit there and build backlinks and things like that. But I have a team that I'm comfortable using that are happy to either white label their service or sit in my office and do this service for our clients. Same as mortgage broking, financial planning, any of those extra services. If you're not the best at it, don't try and do it yourself. Stick to your strengths, keep people in key positions. And then anything you're not good at, find a team that can do it, that are going to work with you and make you look good. I know that anyone we refer work to makes us look really good. Our team that come in as RBK Wealth or RBK Finance, they make us look good. They look like us, they act like us, they dress like us, they talk like us. So our clients feel comfortable going, yeah, this is RBK. Same as with our SEO guys when they sit with them to have their SEO worked on or a website built or their Facebook or Instagram done. They speak our language, they follow in our values and culture. They know us back to front. So they're not going to kind of sell things to our clients or offer things to our clients that we haven't already approved. So you can build the business or build, some kind of offering that you can have, but you definitely don't have to be doing it yourself. You don't have to hire an SEO expert, but it's just finding a way to build extra things into your portfolio of services. So when somebody comes looking for a great advisor, they're not just getting, hey, we do tax returns. They're getting something much, much more than that.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. You can't be a jack of all trades for everyone, but if you can surround yourself with quality people, it's definitely the way to go. I know listening to you a couple of times at events and on stage, you mentioned it today as well, that client referrals have been key to your growth. How do you capture these referrals?
So tracking and measuring is one thing. So actually recording where we get them all from in itself. So every single time a new person, new entity, new client is added to our system, we have custom tracking that says where do they come from, how do they hear about us, who referred them. So at the end of the month, we can run a report that says we got 10 clients off Facebook, 30 clients organically on the site, 10 clients referred by Mike because he told a bunch of barbecue, was drunk and it was all, and so on and so forth. So actually tracking and measuring, we get a gauge on where our clients come from. And that also means that we can redirect our marketing spend. If we know that this month 20 clients came from Instagram and 5 from Facebook, but we're spending the same amount of money, well, maybe our money is better off going on some sponsored Instagram posts rather than a Facebook spend. And if I know that Mike's referred 5 people at a barbecue, I'm going to make sure that I'm sending Mike a bottle of whiskey, a slab of beer, a voucher for him and his missus to go to the hot springs, whatever it is. It's reward for those referrals. So track, measure, and reward is a big one. We send hampers. We've kind of got a list, automating this and making it a system and process. Every single time it happens, I don't have to sit there and think, oh, geez, what are we going to send that person? We have based on value of a client that's been referred, we have a list of different things that we'll send as a gift, and we just ping the admin team and just say, hey, Mike referred so-and-so, value this, send them hamper number 2. And the team just arranges it and it gets sent out. I get a call or a message from Mike saying, mate, you're the best, but it reinforces that referrals are something that we love and appreciate. The other thing with that is, when was the last time you asked for a referral? So some people, and I think that it's a negative thing or not a nice thing to do is to ask for a referral. If you're asking for referrals, does your client think that your business isn't doing well or something like that? But for us, it's that communication. We love new clients. We'd love to help more people like you. Can you please refer us some business? And, for example, if you're really good in the trades and construction industry and you ask your 5 best tradie clients to refer some of their mates who are running businesses, I'll tell you what, you're going to be winning new clients, no problem at all.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome advice. We're going to move on. Yep. Great. Awesome cue there. We're going to move on to people and technology. So I've got a couple of questions here. What tools are in your standardized cloud accounting tech stack? And whilst you're answering that, there is a question that's come in from Peter. He wants to know the onboarding software you use that talks to Xero PM. So if you could tell us your main accounting tech stack and also mention that so we can at least get that question covered.
Yeah, done. No problem. So Xero Practice Manager, Xero Work Papers, so the whole Xero suite. We obviously then have Spotlight and Hubdoc. A little bit on Receipt Bank. We use Trello, we use Slack, we use Practice Protect to run all of our passwords for our team. For example, with somebody who finished up the other day, they didn't know any of their own passwords. I don't have to worry about changing systems or whatever. We just shut down their Practice Protect and they can't log into anything anymore. We use DocuSign, we use Now Infinity, we use Loom and Zoom. To answer more specifically Peter's question around the onboarding software, it's Practice Ignition. With a couple of things from Zapier that will move information around from Zapier into different things. But Practice Ignition itself is powerful enough to do the information from Practice Ignition back to Zero Practice Manager and into Zero. And then our own website, we had our team build custom APIs which talk to Zero Practice Manager. So the data can move between the website and our practice management system. Which is something we built ourselves, just knowing how we wanted it to work.
Well, it's a lot of applications there.
Yeah, that's only a small part of the list, but they're the kind of the main ones.
Yeah. Having worked in the industry and talking to heaps of accountants, there's so and working for Xero for 5 years, I think there was about 20 odd apps back in the early days. There are so many apps nowadays, and it's hard to get your head around all of them. How do you stay on top of all the systems and the apps in the ecosystem?
Part of me wants to say I think it's impossible. There's so many launch every day and everything else. It's being proactive. It's knowing what you're looking for and actually going out and hunting for that particular piece of software that solves a problem. As I said, one of our values was leading the pack. So around innovation and technology, we want to know about it. If there's an event that talks about it, we will go to it. One of our directors has their key role and responsibility is apps and add-ons. So it's his job that if we come across something or a team member comes across something that we think is going to be useful for ourselves or our clients, before we roll it out, we will push that onto the director and to say, hey, here's something that we need tested, reviewed, looked at. Let us know what you think. And him being a tech maniac and an absolute lover of apps, he'll go away and research it and find out how it's being used and what's the best way to use it. But yeah, I think it's hard to stay on top of it all, but it's a deliberate thing to want to be on top of it all and to go out of your way to know about it.
And is that just one person that is responsible for all of that? Because there's so many, do you share that kind of love with multiple staff? Because there's always that risk.
Yeah.
If that one person leaves, they take a lot of that IP with them.
No, he's a director, so he's not allowed to go anywhere. So he's one of the owners of the business. But no, so it's his responsibility to be told about them all and then to dish them out to people to test and trial before we roll it out to the entire team or to our clients. So yeah, he's got quite a busy job, I believe. I'm glad it's not me because I'm always finding new things and pushing it back to him to test it out. I mean, example, the other day we sat with the guys from Everperform that do basically pulses out to the team to find out how they're feeling and what's working and what's not working in their world. And I want that. I want a kind of a closer feel of what's happening at the team level. So he's now off out trialing it and finding out how much it costs and how we can roll it out and if it's going to work for us. So I don't envy his job sometimes because I bust his balls.
Hey, you mentioned Hubdoc and Spotlight, so need to have a chat a little bit about them. Can you tell us a little bit about how these two tools have contributed to RBK's advisory's growth?
Yeah, for sure. Spotlight for yourself, mate. It's one of those ones. I mean, Xero does so much, but then the way the reports come out, there's so much that they do. So feeding everything into Spotlight just gives us a lot more reporting power, and even things that aren't in Spotlight, like three-way forecast, cash flow, monthly comparative reports by bringing in actual versus budget. There's all these little extra, I guess, bits of advisory that you do and you want to make easy. That was the thing with growing the advisory side of the business is we didn't want to put a ridiculous price tag on it and not be able to sit with our clients and discuss things and have that relationship. So it was an easy way to get data out, make it look really beautifully presented, and then also just have great access to great data. So we use the Spotlight dashboards in our financial packs to have a quick snapshot of revenue this year versus revenue last year, cash balance now versus cash balance at the end of last financial year. And that just drives great conversations because they look at that beautiful one page, oh wow, that data is really useful. What else can we get? and that we can drive conversations around KPI dashboards, monthly reporting packs, to then, I guess, even upsell our own clients into packages that they're not yet on. I had a great one the other day where I did a 2019, 2020, 2021 3-year forecast with profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow for a client that has investors from Singapore, and he has to fly over to Singapore and show the board what the projections are for his business. And I mean, that's a fun bit of consulting that is made quite easy by using Spotlight as a tool. The other side of that was the Hubdoc. So Hubdoc was one. Our bookkeeping team grows, as ridiculously as our accounting team at the moment. So our bookkeeping team is taking on so much. It was, again, one of those things where we empowered the bookkeeping team to have a look at a few different apps and decide what they really loved and what they thought worked well. And luckily enough for us and for Hubdoc, they decided that Hubdoc was this beautiful piece of software that they really enjoyed using and getting stuck into, for the way it collects and collates that really important financial data into one place where everyone can log in and have access to it, being our team and our clients. I think that that annoying thing of 30 June bank statements going, oh, hey guys, we need, for your 6 bank accounts, we need your bank statements, we need your credit card, this, that, whatever. Knowing that that's all automatically downloaded into Hubdoc is one less thing that we have to put on our checklist at the end of the year. And then even, I guess, that creating a new habit for our clients to be able to open their phone and take a photo of documents, or to be able to email every bit of important financial document to one email, being clients@hubdoc.com, nothing goes missing. And once you've implemented that and you've formed that habit with your client, you've got one financial, I guess, portal of truth where all of their documents need to end up. And in the day and age of, ATO and coming down on people for not having the right documents, we just say, for the cost per month for our clients that are on the packages that we put them on, throw Hubdoc in. Our bookkeeping team love it. Our clients end up loving it. It's an absolute win-win for everyone.
Cool. Awesome. Jace, one of the biggest things that I've come across when I'm talking to accountants, they always talk about staff and hiring, and kind of, that's what gives them grey hairs. How's this been a challenge?
I'm getting a few.
Has this been a challenge given, how quick you've expanded?
Definitely. Anyone who finds hiring new people easy, I'd love to have a conversation with them. It's been challenging. It probably should have been more challenging. So I think one of those things that we've been really lucky with is, from the outside looking in, you look at our website, Facebook, Instagram, everything else, we look fun. We look like a fun place to work. We look like we're doing all the cool new age tech things. We flew our entire team to Port Douglas, for example. So when we go to market and look for a new team member, I've actually been quite, I guess, lucky or blessed in a sense that people are throwing themselves at us at the moment. They want to come and work for us. So where I guess some firms might put a budget into recruitment costs, I'm saying scrap your recruitment costs and put it into making your firm look and feel amazing, and putting time, energy, and effort into the culture of your firm, because culture is the absolute number one thing that we've invested in from day one, which has stopped us from having to pay any recruiting fees. The culture of our team and the culture of RBK is attracting the right people to want to come and work for us. So yeah, look, it's definitely been a challenge though. I mean, you still have to go through, half a dozen people who all want to work for you, and then choose who the right person was based on fit for your firm. Not hiring the wrong people to ruin your culture as well has been a hard one. We, in the early days where, as I said, we got too many clients on and we didn't have enough team members to handle our clients' workload, we've probably hired a few of the wrong people very early on. And probably then as well, we were slow to hire and then slow to fire as well. So we kept on to a couple of people who, for way too long, who weren't really living and breathing the RBK way and living and breathing our culture. But because we were so desperate to have a bum on a seat getting work done, I guess we just let that keep going for a little bit too long. So now it's having the culture as the forefront of how we hire. We barely look at a resume. We would rather go and have a coffee with someone or a beer with someone and just have a conversation about their past, their history, why they think they'll fit, and what they want to do with their future. And having hired 4 people in the last 2 weeks, I mean, this is very fresh on my mind that I'm just trying to think of, I don't even know if I looked at a resume. I think somebody would have, I'm sure. But I mean, it was more around, I think one of the guys we hired, we went to have a beer with for an hour out on Chapel Street, and 7 hours later, we were still drinking beer with him on a Tuesday or a Thursday night at the Imperial on Chapel Street. But what better way to get to know someone you're about to welcome into your family and your culture for many, many more years to come by sitting with them, having a beer for 7 hours and learning about who they are, their family, their partner, and what they want to achieve with their life. And if at the end of that 7 hours it feels good and there's a good connection, you want that person coming to work for you, and if they want to work for you or not. So yeah.
You didn't get him to sign the contract after the 7 hours of drinking, did you?
Oh, of course, that's legally binding, isn't it? No, just
cool.
Sent it to him the next day with later on in the next day after a few sore heads settled down.
Cool. Well, I think that's probably all the questions. I think we've got a few in the panel, Matt. I'm not sure whether we want to go and
yeah, we'll start diving into a few of those. I think there's some that you'll be able to take, Steve. But I guess just to start this off, Jason, Shiv asked, you mentioned you had a mentor basically for RBK. Like, do you have a specific practice that would be a mentor to you? And if yes, would you mind sharing?
Look, they've changed over time. I don't necessarily stick with one person. They're still my friends, but they're not necessarily sitting in my mentor slot at the moment. John Peterson from Best Practice is someone who I'm now, really good chummy mates with, and we, I guess, if you are looking for, he's specifically who I talk to at the moment and have a lot of debriefing with. We did the Accountants Big Day Out tour with John Peterson. There's something about, when you look for that mentor, it's someone that you feel comfortable opening up to, laying it all out on the table. Even when, my personal life, if something was wrong in my personal life, he's someone that I'm comfortable talking with. I've met his wife, I've met his daughter. He's done the opposite side. So we have a relationship now where we can open up and talk about more than just business. That's what it is. I mean, this is life. It's not just a business. This is what fuels your personal life. Before that, Mike McHenry from AA was a great peer that I looked up to. Brent Saleh from SIVA, again, was a great peer and a personal mentor when I worked for him for nearly 2 years. I think they're probably the main ones that come to mind at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I think, sorry, just on that, just while I think reaching out to people who are doing what you do as well and getting them to become part of your advisory panel. So John Knight is last year's winner of the Zero up at Business Depot in Brisbane. Him and I recently and a few emails back and forth to each other. But me knowing that John and I have this open communication now where if we've got questions that we want to ask each other about what our next plans are, what are we going to do next, how are we going to do it, that's now somebody else that I see as part of my, I guess, advisory panel. So it's being open to getting to know other accounting firm owners and having them also as part of your panel of advisors. Andrew from Illuminate down in Mornington Peninsula, he's a great, now someone I see as a great friend outside of the accounting industry. So yeah, just be open, reach out and build some relationships.
Perfect. So Steve, there's another question there that you can take.
Yeah, there's one from Natalie. Do the SEO guys work from your office, or do they work outside your office? Do they work for you, or?
So they run their own business as well. So effectively contractors. They have their own leads, their own business, their own website, and then any of my work that I generate comes in through our shared portfolio. So they work in the office, but I luckily don't have to pay them a wage or anything like that. I pay too many other wages. So SEO guys run their own business, run their own show, and we just get to have them as part of our advisory panel. They're happy to jump into meetings with us. And again, being in the same office when we do have meetings with clients, we can just go, one sec, I'm going to bring in Steve and Andy and they're going to talk to you about SEO as an example. And it's a very smooth transition into that to have them sit there I mean, it's not doable for everyone, I guess, to have a bunch of SEO guys just sitting in your office all day, but luckily enough, it's just the way that we've been able to structure.
Yep. There's another one here. What role did the delivery of advisory services to clients play in growing their client base using tools like Spotlight for reporting and forecasting help enable this?
It'd be help if I could see that question. So the growth, I'm trying to piece the question together, mate. That growth, for example, so backing ourselves in when we go to a meeting with a big client, to know that we have tools like Spotlight to help us sell our packages. So, I mean, we're going up against, with some of the bigger end of our clients, we're going up against BDO, Grant Thornton, Pitcher Partners, and they've got great long-standing brands, great history, great accountants, and then little old RBK's coming in, offering them a package saying we can do the same job and if not better, cheaper, and you'll have more of a relationship with multiple contact points, multiple directors and client managers. So the ability for us to back ourselves in and sell those services, knowing that we've got a tool like Spotlight, it just means when we talk about being able to do actuals versus budgets, quarterly, monthly reports, KPI dashboards, they look at us and go, cool, we'll give you a chance, let's show us what you've got. We show them a Spotlight report as an example, and they go, yeah, wow, okay, we want that. When do we start? So yeah, having the advisory tech stack and those apps up our sleeve definitely plays a part in us growing our business, the advisory side of our business.
Cool. There's another one on staffing from Karen. Do you use outsourcing or offshoring?
No, not something we've done yet. I want to say yet because it hasn't been part of our vision historically. It's stuff that we're now talking about, because I guess every time we hire someone here, it costs a lot of money, and we've looked at the outsourced accountants and other offerings and just gone, well, if they're well trained, well educated, smart, same systems, tech, cloud, doing the same job, do we need to hire just people in Australia to do this job, or can we eventually have somebody in the Philippines assisting us? Inside, I know one of the team the other day was scanning 200 pieces of mail and we're dropping the mail into a folder. Do I need to have somebody here on $25 or $30 an hour doing that, or for someone on a great wage in the Philippines could be doing that, but it's costing me a fraction of the price, but for them it's still a great wage. I've kind of babbled on a bit there. No, we don't do it. It's not something that we don't do because we don't believe in it or don't want to do it. It's just we've had bigger fish to fry over the last 2 and a bit years, but it's something we'll keep monitoring and keep talking to other. Again, it's that talking to other accounting firms about it. I keep hearing, yes, we're doing it and it works really well, or we did it and we fired our entire team. I know Sky Accounting have done a really good job at it. HTA Advisory are doing a great job at it. And a couple of others. So yeah, for us, not yet, but watch this space. So if we do, I'll happy to talk about it down the track.
Perfect. So just a few more questions here, sensitive to everyone's time this afternoon. So question from David Jason. Do you use Practice Ignition to budget for the optimum number of staff required to complete X new business / new clients? Basically relating back to that frustration you expressed when you began. Let me know if you need any context on that. We still have Jason.
I lost you a little bit there. I don't know whether it was my Wi-Fi cut out there. So,
just kind of pertaining to your use of Practice Ignition, I think the question maybe was around how you use the tool and if you use it to basically optimize the amount of business or clients you can support. And I'm not exactly sure the tools for that, but
no. So not really. No, we don't look at it at a Practice Ignition level. We break it down into a director and client manager level. So if my particular pod or portfolio of work becomes low capacity, either I need to hire in new team members into my team to service that team, or I need to be able to reach into us resources to be able to get those jobs done. So it's definitely not done at a Practice Ignition level. Practice Ignition is great from an overview of money dropping in across the line each month in from a revenue sense, but we need to be able to dive deeper into what that looks like and what services we're trying to put out. And, you know, even now when we're doing a $20,000 package, $15,000 of that might be bookkeeping. So factoring in the bookkeeping time, you really need to dive deeper, and it takes more than doing that in Practice Ignition, that's for sure.
Interesting. Now, final question before we wrap up. Do you say no to certain clients that don't fit with the RBK model?
Yes, we say no. So the ones we'll say no to are the ones that don't want to conform to our way of doing things. So our values and the way we work, communication, relationships. If I ask you to send me something and you don't send it within a certain time frame, I mean, have those questions like conversations up front with the client. You can tell who's not going to work for you. So, you know, letting people know that there's a strict set of rules that we abide by in a sense of how we need to work together. You'll be able to tell in a meeting when they go, oh, hang on, so if I don't send you my document for like a week, you're not going to like that. And it's like, well, no, you're stopping me from being able to do my job. Either you agree that you want to work with us to make your business world and accounting world better, or you won't work with us. And yeah, I think as well, because of the way we've marketed, I mean, if you read our website or read our social media, we are very relaxed and very chilled and, you know, very conversational. The clients who want like extreme professionalism, you know, they don't want to have fun, they don't want to joke around, they're not even going to end up calling us or sending us an email or trying to become a client because they already know they're not the right fit for us. So yeah, I mean, we already wean out the wrong fit from our marketing message, but then if they do get to that end point, it's I guess drilling into them how we need to work together for it to be a great relationship. And if it doesn't seem like it's going to be a good fit, you just don't take it to that next level. But yeah, it's definitely not a yes to everyone. I think that for a couple it might have been, but no, changed our tone a little bit over the last year and a half.
Perfect. That makes a ton of sense to me. Awesome. So I guess as we wrap up here, we'll just talk about first and foremost how you can get started with Hubdoc. We'll switch over to Spotlight as well. Go to app.hubdoc.com/sign up to sign up for your own free practice account. That's a lifetime free account you can use before deciding whether you want to add clients. Now, Audrey did post links to a bunch of the other companies that RBK currently uses in their tech stack. I can vouch for pretty much all of them because we use much of the same stack. It's funny how tech companies and accounting firms are kind of slowly but surely using pretty much the exact same stack to manage their client, really any business for that matter. From Zapier to Zoom to Slack to Trello, phenomenal kind of different products that will definitely help your workflow, not only internally, but also how you communicate and work on client files as well.
Cool. And the offer that we have is if you book a demo with one of our account managers this month, we're giving you 50% off Spotlight certification. This enables you to become an expert in the Spotlight platform, usually around $100. It's half price. And also our Transforming Action series. So we've created a new course. It's a 12-week course, 1-hour online sessions, and basically learn to design and implement an advisory in your practice. So really useful. We've run our first course starting last month, and we're getting great traction. So we'll run another one very, very shortly. So yeah, book a demo, and there's the URL down the bottom there, and you'll get access to that discount.
Perfect. Well, finally, thank you, everyone. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to Steve. I, for one, got a ton out of today's webinar, and I'm sure everyone else did. We had huge attendance numbers, which is always kind of great to see. So thanks again, and I'm sure we'll be chatting very soon.
Thanks, guys. Anyone who wants to ask any further questions, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, drop me an email. I'm happy to chat to people outside of this who just want to have a bit of a chin wag or grab a beer if you're ever in Melbourne. And yeah, thank you for spending your time checking us out.
Thanks again.
Cool.